Is it rolling? Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Meena. Wait, you're not supposed to say anything because then your voice will come out. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to Meena, my YouTube channel. It's been a while since I've done a sit down and talk to you guys. I just want to talk about a topic that I feel like is something that I have recently gone through myself, and maybe some people want to have advice on it, or so basically I got married and I want to talk about what are the things that you should think about or do before you get married. So I made a list of things and I'm gonna talk about them. So the first thing I wrote was you have to be on the same page when it comes to like your aspirations. Like, you can have different goals, but your goals have to align, right? And so like you have to be on the same page on like the things, even though maybe you might go about the goals differently. You just kind of have to be on the same page. Okay, that's number one. You must both want marriage. That's obvious in itself. You cannot marry somebody that does not want marriage. Before you get married, try to talk about your expectations within the marriage. Like, do you want kids? What are the roles? Who's gonna do what? Like stuff like that. Where are you gonna live? Like a lot of things like that. You should try to clear those up before you get married. Try to ask questions about childhood, which is something that I feel like you won't fully know until you really get into the marriage, but try to ask questions and understand their own childhood dynamics. Ask about mental health. Do any of you have any mental health issues? Do you have any physical health issues? You should try to address those things. And let's say one is like suffering from anxiety, try to see and talk about those things. Do you both have awareness? And when we talk about awareness, okay, where was I? I was talking about awareness. When I talk about awareness, I mean like awareness in the ability to take responsibility. So let's say you hurt somebody and they're like, I feel like you hurt me. Does that other person have the awareness and the capacity to know that I hurt you in this instance, and I am sorry and I'm taking responsibility, and I am aware of myself to a certain extent, right? Have that level of awareness, self-awareness, take a counseling course together with the person that you're deciding to marry. Like, go through like a premarital counseling thing, which is something that me and my husband did. It's an Islamic premarital counseling class that I took, that my aunts actually helped host, which was an interesting thing and a story in itself, because that was kind of like an opportunity for my husband to meet his in-laws virtually. So before even speaking to a man or a woman, try to manifest exactly what it is that you want in a person, in a partner. I want them to, have went to college. And I mean, maybe you can think of that as like a superficial thing, but whatever. Like I want him to be this tall. I want him to be close to his mother, close to his family, respect women, like more like things like that. You can even say, I want them to be self-aware, I want them to want kids, like, so these are the things that you want, so that these things that they have will align with yours, right? Pray istihara. So istihara is like a prayer that you do, and it's 2 rak'ahs, and you know you're very close to Allah, and you're telling Allah to help you make a decision, right? So you can do istihara for anything. So when it comes to like the marriage and the person, right? So you're praying like to God that if this is that right choice for you, may He keep it in your favor and in your heart to make that decision. You know what I'm saying? So maybe you're kind of struggling, like, I know I want this person, but I'm not 100% sure. And, you know, God will just make it easier for you. Some people will say they have a dream about that person and they know. Or, like, some kind of a sign. You know, if you're very, like, intuitive into your dreams like that, you may get a dream. You know, they may do something that makes you feel even more enamored or in love with that person, right? So you know that that's the right decision to make, essentially, right? Um, Try to understand each other's family dynamic, and I think I kind of said that earlier about knowing about their childhood. Um, Try to ask as many questions as you can. No, not a lot of questions. Like, ask as many so that you know what you're getting yourself into, right? Um, Understand your personality types. So you know, in Islam, like, we're not supposed to really like date, you know, and just be like talking to somebody for such an amount of years without like having that marriage talk with that person, right? So um and maybe I'll have this as a story time another time, but a little snippet of like me and my husband, like, I've known him for years. Like, I've known him since I was like 14. So we've known each other like half of our lives, or half of my life I've known him. And we've known each other since we were kids. When we were kids, obviously, talk of marriage was not something that, you know, we knew was going to happen because we were very young. But we did like each other. And yeah, like I said, that whole boyfriend girlfriend thing, like, you can have somebody that you like and that's okay, and people know about it, you know. So when we were younger, you know, we liked each other. And then we kind of went our separate paths. Like, we didn't even live in the same state. Um, and then kind of stayed friends. Like, you know, just a lot of times people will be like, oh, I found the one, like, through DMs. Like, somebody will slide into your DMs, and, you know, next thing you know, they're married. Because, like, the way that dating is in Islam, it's a little bit different. It's like courting for marriage, you know? So, like, you'll hear women, like, will talk to, like, multiple guys, but they're not really, you know, they're trying to see which the one is, but you're just talking more, like, as friends, right? So, like, my husband, like, um, that particular year that we got married, we both were looking to get married, basically. And we kind of had a conversation, like, on the phone, and it was like, hey, how are you? You know, how's your family? Like, that kind of stuff. And then I think a phone call after that was when, you know, he kind of was like, I'm in that space in my time right now where I want to get married. Are you in that space in time that you want to get married too? And do you see that for us? And honestly, that was the perfect time. And I mean, like, honestly, timing can be everything. And I was like, yes, this is what I want for myself as well. So we moved forward to the next step, which is, like, you know, talking to the families. And he had his family ask my family for my hand in marriage in Nigeria, right? Um, that's basically what happened. And I will say personally, I did manifest the man that I wanted without thinking of who exactly I had in mind. So, like, I had a list of things that I wanted in a man, right? Like, this is the standard that I want. And, you know, after actually doing cross-checking, like I wasn't consciously thinking about my husband as the person. But then after him and I were on that journey for marriage, I actually realized that he did, fit that criteria of my manifestations. So, along the lines of getting to know yourself, like, some people get married when they're young, some people get married older. Honestly, it really doesn't matter when you do it, but when you do it, you want to make sure that you know exactly kind of what you want, so that, you're not being tricked into something where you're going to end up, like, being miserable or regretting your decision, like that kind of thing. So, yeah. Oh, so me and my husband, actually, we read this book on top of the counseling class that we went to, and it's called Before You Tie the Knot. And so it's essentially a guide for couples that are trying to get married, and it has a lot of questions, a lot of different chapters on, like, different things. And I'm just, how much impact does a family have on the decisions that you make? You hear of stories of, like, two couples being ready for marriage, right, in the right ways, and the family is like, well, we're not the same culture, or we're not the same. Mostly it is culture, like, oh, we come from different tribes, or like, you're from this country and I'm from this country, and we're not gonna see eye to eye. This book actually talks about those things when it comes to marriage, and in some aspects, it's a smart thing to do, to take away, like, not go with what the families are saying, because you're trying to do things based on Islam. But if you yourself, that cultural thing is very important to you, and you don't want to let go of that, and marrying a spouse from this other culture is going to, like, not be right for you, like your values, or let's say, like, you really want them to know language, and you want both of you to speak that same language, and that's like a deal breaker, right? Then it's totally fine. But it shouldn't be based on, like, what your families are saying, right? So just kind of weigh that. A lot of people end up not, like, cutting off their family when it comes to marriage, right? Because their families are very stubborn on what they see for their, like, kids. Obviously, I don't have any kids yet, so I don't know what kind of a hold I'm going to have on my children or want, but, like, I can personally say that I would want them to choose somebody that has good character for themselves, same as I would want my siblings to choose people from good character, and not necessarily what country they come from, right? Or their tribe or their culture. If they themselves are a good-hearted person, and, like, they have empathy, they have drive, they have love, compassion, like, those kind of things, yeah, so that's what I gotta say about the cultural thing. So yeah, this book has been amazing. I wrote a lot of notes. Me and my husband basically read it together, and we would ask each other, like, questions, right? The questions in the book we would ask each other. Like, one question is, like, do you take care of yourself? How much value do you place on physical attraction? To find. Oh, like, even the internet, right, can be a huge thing. Like how much stuff are we gonna be putting out on the internet? Like, are you more of a private person versus public person? Like, oh, the ones about family is really interesting to me. I had underlined something based on, like, oh, if a parent tells you to, like, divorce your spouse, like, are they allowed to do that? Honestly, the truth is, they're not really allowed to tell you to divorce your spouse, right? Women have a wali, who's a representative, my uncle was my representative for my wedding, for for my marriage. And basically this person is supposed to ask all the questions of that that spouse. A lot of times it's women that really need a wali. You know, men sometimes also will need people to ask those questions for them, because when you put in like love into the equation, you can love somebody, and it's good to love the person that you're gonna marry, but try not to let it cloud your judgments on like what you're trying to get into. It's more than just that love, right? It's more than that. You know, you have to love somebody, you have to want to grow together, you know. You have to be patient. A lot of people would give us advice like be patient, be patient, be patient. Like that's one of the most advice that we hear, like in northern Nigeria, like the house of culture, people will say kayahapuri. And I think now that I've been married for like not like a long time, but I feel like we're seeing why that's like one of the biggest advice that people give. You know, because there's a lot of things that, you know, first of all, not every fight is something that you should take on. Another thing is that you have to feel what the other person is feeling. So like if my husband says something to me that I find offensive, but he doesn't think it's offensive, he still has to understand, okay, that I find this thing offensive, therefore apologize or try to rectify the situation, right? The same as me, like maybe I have an attitude problem, and you know, I don't feel like it is because this is just the way that I am in general. But when you're in a marriage, you're seeing each other's flaws, you're seeing each other's like, you know, okay, I understand this has been something that you do in the past, but I don't accept that, right? And you have to respect one another, like, you know, that's why you have to be very open. Communication is so important in a marriage. So this is like after you do get married, which I can make this into a part 2 and talk about marriage. You know, so yeah, if you have any more questions, let me know and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Like I said, I might do more story times. I might have my husband on here to talk about certain things, because his perspective might be different than mine. I'm not gonna lie, when we were in our counseling, like our marriage counseling course, or it's like a seminar, he was way more participant than I was. The time difference was weird because it was held in Nigeria and we were here, so like we had to kind of wake up in the middle of the night, or very early, like 1, 2, like those kind of times, like to do it. And he was here and I was in the state that I lived before I moved here. And you know, there was one day it was just guys in their section, one day girls in their section, and then the second day we were all together. And you know, you had little worksheets to work on and write all the questions that you had for each other, or like try to answer about each other. And yeah, I was very surprised because he was, you know, he was very participant, like he was speaking up, and I thought I was more of an extrovert than he was, but I really think he is more when it comes to something that he really believes in. And I feel like I am that way too. So like, you know, the class was based on like Islam, right? And all the different speakers were talking from an Islamic lens. So oh my gosh, it was such an amazing like thing for us to do. And you know, I'll try to share more of like maybe like a flyer or like the number to call, like if they have any future courses like that. But yeah, it definitely brought us closer, and made us more prepared for marriage. So yeah, anyways, like I said before, if you have anything you would like to hear, any more story times, any more whatever, like please just let me know and I'll try my best to deliver. I love to do that whole reading thing and talk about like the books that I read. If I had talked about this book earlier, maybe I would have had more details for you, but you know, there's a lot of books that I've read from like the last time I talked about certain books, and so my next one I'll probably just discuss maybe 3 or 4 books that I've read, you know, and give a little like, do I recommend, do I not, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, nagode, which means thank you for coming to my channel, and good luck